Now, in the last hour, ITV have dropped the comedian Dapper Laughs from their schedules after 50,000 people signed a petition of complaint. He was a comedy star on the internet, but to his critics, one who we'll hear from in a moment, a stereotype that many thought had died out years ago. They claim he's not just laddish, but outright sexist and deeply offensive to women.
I'm Dapper Laughs. Dapper! They've only gone and given me my own ITV2 show. Hey, dating's out and pulling's in. Dapper!
Dapper Laughs, real name Daniel O'Reilly, was in some ways a very modern phenomenon. The first star of the Vine social network to break through with his own show on ITV2, On the Pull. But you could say he's stuck in the 90s, plumbing the depths of lad culture, with leering, always up for it banter, most explicitly in short online videos.
But how do you know if she's interested? It's easy, there's one thing you've got to do. Just show her your penis. If she cries, she's just playing hard to get.
ITV claimed Dapper's dating advice was firmly based on treating women with respect and speaking to them in the right way. But to his critics, his comedy trivialises rape and dehumanises women. He's now not allowed to perform his routine at Cardiff University, where Robin Thicke's song Blurred Lines is also banned. In his defence, O'Reilly says some comedians push the boundaries in the name of entertainment. That means taking risks. But in the last hour, under the growing weight of fury on social media, a petition and letter from other comics, ITV wiped the smile off Dapper Laughs' face and axed his show. But just because he offended some, was it right to close him down? Well, joining me now, Vicky Chandler, the student who got Dapper Laughs banned from performing on Cardiff University's campus, and the comedian Alfie Brown. Vicky Chandler, I mean, just because he's offensive, is it right to shut him down?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think he definitely crossed the line between what is offensive and what should just not be shown on television. He's a massive perpetrator of a culture that we have a serious issue with, and that is sexism. And as a university student, and I'm only 21 years old, this has never been more prominent in my life. And it started off just to ban him from my university because I felt that an academic institution that was proud to protect the rights of its female students should not be allowing him a soapbox for his misogyny.
Do you think he's funny?
Oh, God, no. Well, no, of course he's not. But that's not the point. I mean, he's not a comedian in a real sense of the word. He's like, well, he doesn't really understand the kind of punchline or setup, but I feel it's important in terms of a debate so that I can still go outside, that I say that he's not good. Because it would be dreadful for me to live in a world. So you defend
his right to exist on TV?
I defend his right to exist to an extent, but I more disagree with the method of dealing with a problem. In that I think you set a dangerous precedent for other comedy, or actual comedy, by pulling him away. The first point would be that I think it sets a dangerous precedent, as I said, in that therefore, like in the novel Post Office, when Henry Chinaski, the kind of character closely modelled on Bukowski himself, rapes the woman in the negligee, should that now be banned? Or perhaps the Jay-Z or Beyonce song Drunk in Love, when he's saying he's like Turner?
It's not about things like that being banned. It's the fact that ITV even commissioned a show like that straight away.
Well, that is remarkable.
You say he's not funny. You say, oh, I don't think he's funny, yet you're defending the right for him to be allowed to be on television. It's not about comedy. It's about the fact that they are exploiting a man that clearly has a power and is very impressionable, especially on other young men. And I wouldn't expect you to understand, because I bet you haven't experienced sexism at all once in your life. But I started this because I am passionate about it. Every day when I walk down the street, I am catcalled at. Pretty much every time I go out, I am groped or touched in some way. And it's unacceptable. And he's a massive perpetrator of that culture. It's not comedy. You say it's not comedy. So, you know, good on them for cancelling it. They shouldn't have even allowed him on in the first place.
You tweeted, maybe he just needs a bit of love.
Well, I think he doesn't. I think he's just really lonely. And I think there's a sort of an interesting sort of tribalism aspect to kind of everybody going, people wear their anger at Dapper Laughs like a fashion statement. And that was a very kind of worked up kind of response to me and saying I've clearly never experienced sexism. And I have kind of, in that, like, I've performed in front of Hindus that have tried to take my shirt off, and I've been, the victim of sexually aggressive behaviour.
Then you know exactly what I'm on about.
I do know exactly what you're on about, but at the same time, I just don't think that cutting off the voice is necessarily the way to go. Also, like, he was on ITV2 He might as well have been on In My Cupboard. Who's watching that? Like, what reasonable person goes, I want to watch
There's this question
ITV2?
of the anger, isn't there? I mean, there's just the anger against this man on Twitter. It's just, it's a bit alarming, isn't it?
I know, it is alarming.
It's violent and it's nasty, and you kind of think, why do you all hate so much?
I know,
You know?
and you know what? I don't wish that upon anyone, but unfortunately, myself, I've experienced that from his fans, his legion of supporters, and as you saw from that video, the sort of jokes that he makes about women, you can imagine the sort of abuse that I got. I wouldn't condone that on anyone, and it was never about banning him completely. It just started off as a university
But that's what you've
petition.
done, effectively, haven't you? I mean, the massive campaign closes him down, possibly ends his career, stamps him out.
Surprise.
And there's something sort of, I don't know, intolerant about that, isn't it?
I understand where you're coming from, but that was never. I never wanted to ban him. I didn't ever start the petition to get him banned off television. It was just.
What was the petition? To get him banned from Cardiff University?
I wanted to get him from my student
Because there is a
union.
sort of a dangerous thing. If the thing is that it is only ITV2, and if he's on ITV2, it can be like a controlled explosion.
Well, I wouldn't be too sort of poo-pooey about ITV2.
Yeah.
It gets an audience. This must have been a...
Yeah, but I think if you look in the audience of ITV2 in comparison to, say, his Facebook following, his Vine following, the millions and millions of views that he's had, what you do is you form a kind of a cult, whereas people are kind of more invested in it, say. And I think the reason why kind of TV debate is necessarily kind of myopic is because the solution to any problem is far more boring than you would want it to be, which is really just reforming the education system and enlightening men from an earlier age about this sort of problem. And cutting him off is only going to make his small cabal.
I mean, that's the much bigger question here, isn't it?
More fierce.
That there are so many people who wanted to watch that.
Yeah, I wouldn't say so many people wanted to watch it, considering nearly 60,000 people in the space of a few days signed a petition to get him cancelled. And
is that more people than watched it?
Probably. You'll need to ask ITV for those statistics.
On this note, I'm afraid I'm going to cut us off. But thank you both very much indeed for coming
Thank
in.
you for
John.
having me.
I think ITV2 might have more viewers than we have. But anyway, after the break.